wildfires, my uncle came to visit us. My mom was under the weather during that time, so he came to give her some soothing herbal teas and some Tony's chocolate. When I opened the package to the chocolate bar, I noticed that not only is the chocolate healthy, but it is helping to lift exploitation happening in countries in Africa that make children farm the cocoa. After I got assigned this 4.0, I knew exactly what to write about: child labor. Before we begin, let's delve into the backstory of Tony's chocolate, shall we? In 2005, Ton van de Keuken, also known as Tony, a Dutch investigative reporter, led an investigation about the use of slavery throughout the cocoa industry. He couldn't believe it when he saw that most of the slaves working the cocoa were, you guessed it, children. He then decided to reach out to the world's biggest chocolate industries, but was completely ignored. What he did next is kinda crazy. So Ton then decided to take matters into his own hands. He ate some chocolate that he knew came from child slaves, then turned himself in as a chocolate criminal to the authorities. Obviously, they did not arrest him. So instead, he decided to make his own chocolate that was fair trade, child slave free, and that would help bring child labor to an end. However, though I could tell you how good the chocolate is, and that you can even design your own cover for your chocolate bar, I'm going to bring up child labor in the cocoa industry, specifically Africa. Did you know that Cote d'Ivoire and Ghana produce around 60% of the world's cocoa? Well, that's because of all the children that work over there. About 1.56 million children are involved in child labor in cocoa farms in these countries. Rural poverty, inadequate health services, and lack of access to education compound these issues. With this large number out of the way, let's look at how colonialism has impacted different countries in Africa. It is evident that many countries in Africa are dependent on the export of raw materials. We see that the export of oil is crucial to Nigeria's economy. Ghana is essential for the production of cocoa and relies heavily on child labor to help harvest the cocoa. Without these exports, these countries would not get the money needed to support themselves and would eventually crumble. We see that countries like the US benefit off of these cheaper imports. Another big effect of colonialism was the introduction of Western education to the countries in Africa, which resulted in the indigenous knowledge systems and languages being marginalized. With this, many children were taken away and sent to boarding schools to try and take them away from their culture. We also see that colonial policies often favored certain ethnic groups over others, which created social hierarchies within these groups that we see evident today. We see that the cultures that align more with the colonizer's culture would have access to education, employment opportunities, and political positions. It is evident that invisible borders drawn by colonial powers often grouped together diverse ethnic groups, which led to ongoing ethnic tensions and conflicts. We see this in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Due to the many different ethnic groups in this area, there's been a lot of tension and conflicts going on. We also see that with all of these different people living together, the cultures would sort of intertwine, becoming a mixed culture. In an interview on October 5th, 2021, Nelson Donkor, a former child slave and the owner of Shahamana Chocolate, talks about his past life. He is from Tipa, which is located in Ghana. He talks about how he was sold into child slavery, but then rescued and sent to school in the city. He then went back to cocoa farming and has done that since. He later says that if he could change things within the cocoa industry, he would make sure that the cocoa farmers get a fair price for their beans. He additionally states that he would like to see the traffickers and the people who participate in child labor in jail. He says that his message to big cocoa companies is that he wants them to know their hardships being cocoa farmers and wants a fair price for their beans. He emphasizes that if there were fair prices, child slavery would be a thing of the past due to children getting employed because they are cheap to employ. In short, I am not telling you to buy Tony's chocolates, even though they are good. Nor am I telling you to try to sue the big chocolate corporations. I'm telling you to be aware of how child labor and exploitation is what gives us our delicious chocolate. We take our chocolate consumption for granted, not thinking about how we got this chocolate. Some things that you can do now to help stop the exploitation happening on the cocoa farms would be to support ethical brands that have fair trade cocoa. You can also advocate for policy changes by supporting legislation that aims to eliminate child labor in cocoa production. You can also spread the word on social media, which can be a great tool in helping to eliminate child labor and exploitation on cocoa farms. Though it may be challenging, you can reach out to big chocolate corporations to address concerns about exploitation happening on the cocoa farms and ask what they could do to combat it. One of the most critical things that you can do to help with child labor is to just research more about it and then make others aware of what is happening. Now that you are aware of what is happening, make sure to reach and get the word out of what is happening on these cocoa farms, one chocolate at a time.